Thank you very much indeed. Dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Prime Ministers, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, dear attendees, dear journalists, today we hosted a unique format of a meeting, a very important meeting, practically a summit of Ukraine and Western Balkan countries. The head of the government of Albania and Montenegro have visited Ukraine in person, and the Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia has joined us via pre-recorded message. I'm confident that we can develop this format further on to strengthen our countries and our regions, and also strengthen Europe as a whole. This meeting today testifies to the support of Ukraine on the part of the Prime Ministers and of the peoples of their countries to Ukraine for our territorial integrity, sovereignty, and our course to the full-fledged membership in the European Union, as well as, not least importantly, the need to hold to account all the Russian perpetrators of crimes for everything they have done against Ukraine on our soil and against Europe. Before negotiations, the Prime Ministers visited the liberated areas of Kyiv region to see firsthand the repercussions of the Russian occupation of these territories. We agreed that the effective tactical response to the Russian aggression should be a stepped-up support to Ukraine, and very timely support, which is very important, particularly weapons, as well as stepping up pressure against Russia, sanctions against the Russian Federation for this aggression. The 7 sanctions package should be very tangible and acutely felt by the Russian aggression, and should be more powerful than the 6 preceding packages. There should be the response to the strategic response to Russian aggression. We should step up the unity on the continent. We need more coordination among European countries. We need to overcome the divergences between so-called old and new members. We need to liquidate every gray zone in Europe. Our countries, Ukraine, Montenegro, Albania, and North Macedonia, must become full-fledged members of the European Union. And we agree that our countries are not rivals on this European path. Rather, they complement their efforts, their opportunities. Today we meet on the eve of historic European events that will adopt measures, adopt decisions on European prospects of Ukraine, and this will be decisive for the European future. I thank Mr. Prime Ministers for the joint statement that we adopt today as a result of our today's meeting on supporting the granting to Ukraine of EU membership, EU candidate status. Today we also covered extensively the defense cooperation among our countries. I thank you, dear sirs, for your support in the weapons and technical sphere. I thank you for supporting our people who have found shelter in your countries, and I hope that pretty soon we will be able to work together on the projects related to post-war reconstruction of Ukraine. I thank you for this meeting. I think that we will follow up on these meetings further on, and I'm confident that we will have further fruitful meetings in the future in the best interests of our peoples. Statement by Edi Rama, Prime Minister of Albania.
Thank you wholeheartedly, Mr. President, for the invitation to be here today. It's very humbling, and I feel privileged, together with Dritan and Dimitar, who for objective reasons couldn't join us, as Prime Ministers of 3 NATO member countries from the Western Balkans, to be here with you and to witness our full support and solidarity to you and to the Ukrainian people. As I already said to you when we started our conversation, Personally, I was hesitant about coming because the proportions of this horror are extreme, and the possibility Albania change the destiny of this war is not at all sufficient. But in the same time, I couldn't not respond to your invitation, and we couldn't miss this moment with you. And I am very thankful for the generous hospitality and for wanting to share with us a very little part of the reality that we have contemplated before through pictures. And today we had the opportunity to see from very near in Irpin, and I'm really happy that you agreed on our proposal to put together our efforts and build a block, each of our countries its own building, for the families and the kids of Irpin. And I know that the European Union and many others are already part of this effort, but let us do it in the Balkan way with no much bureaucracy, and get through and be the first to do it. So this maybe will speed up the efforts of the others. On the other hand, we are here to express full support of your idea and your request in the name of the Ukrainian people for the European Union to give to Ukraine the candidate status. I have to say it loud and clear, and together with Dritan and Dimitar, we are more than happy to join our names to yours in this joint statement, because we don't want anyone to speculate with the fact that EU has been not delivering for us, and now maybe we will not feel good that is delivering something for Ukraine. No, this is not the case. These are two completely separate issues. And of course, we are not happy with EU, and this is not a secret. But in the meantime, we are fully committed to the EU path, not because of Paris or London or Berlin or Brussels, but because of the future for our next generations. And on the other hand, we fully understand this burning desire of Ukraine to have this and to have it now. Of course, after having the candidate status, you may have to face the reality of the candidate status not being as much as it looks when you don't have it, but it's good to have it first. So on our side, we fully support it. And last but not least, I'm proud to share with you also publicly, Mr. President, that Albania, as a non-permanent member of the Security Council and a scope and holder with the United States on Ukraine, is very privileged to voice there in that table the concerns and the demands of the people of Ukraine for a just peace. And so let me pass the floor to Dritan by thanking you very much for what you are doing, because what you are doing is not simply something that you naturally owe to the Ukrainian people and the Ukrainian nation as their president, but what you are doing is something that you don't owe, but you are also doing for the values and the basic principles of living in peace in its own land for all Europe, and why not for the whole world. So God bless you, and may this war, this horror end, and may Ukraine get out of it reborn, and why not also Europe get out of it reborn. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much, President Zelensky. For us, it's a great honor to be here with you, and thank you for your time. We consider this like our political, but before political, moral obligation to come to Kiev and symbolically to shake a hand of you and to give a big hug for all Ukrainian people, which really until now make a miracle and trying with all capacity to protect the democratic values of Europe. Our reason of support is because you are not fighting only for your own territory, for your own people, but you're fighting for the principles and for the way of life, for the possibility to choose your own destiny and your future. So our countries want us to say that everything what's dealing with elementary democratic principles, what is will of your institution and of your people, for us is something which is okay. It's same about EU. So you have the support of Montenegro. Of course, I am very glad that you have support of Albania and North Macedonia. We make that together to support your wish of your people to be together one moment in common European family. This is very difficult time for the Europe. This is very difficult time for the world. And I think that most important thing, we share that experience in the morning, is to stop the war. Everything else is less important. We need to find a way how to stop the war, how to stop to have the victims' destruction, massive destruction of infrastructure, of the homes of the people. And after that, of course, you will have the full support of the rebuilding of your country. We don't have too much capacity, it's true, we are small country, but nevertheless we will give our contribution, like we now giving a contribution in the providing you some kind of equipment and some kind of financial support, which probably it's not enough, and definitely it's not enough, but it is our responsibility. We hope that this visit, how you name it, this summit of the three prime ministers from the Western Balkan. Dimitar is not with us, but he made the statement with the video link. It is also the strong message to the EU countries, to the EU partners, to the countries who are superpower, who really have the possibility to do much more than us, that finally we need to come to the same page, to the same stage of the promotion of democratic values. And this, what you did until now, it's really incredible. From our side, you will have the support. I want to mention that every Ukrainian who are now in Montenegro, and they are around 10,000, which is 1.8% of population of our country, we are a small community, are more than welcome and feel very safe, and I think that feel very comfortable. So I don't want to see that refugees coming from Ukraine because they have own homes here and have the own land and own possibility, but really wants that we will come to that period of time when we will talk about economical relation of our country, about making a business, about making a good and positive things for our countries. So in our side you have the trust friend. We will give our best to support you in every initiative, and be sure that we share this kind of experience some decades ago, 3 decades ago in the Western Balkan, and we exactly know what is the aggression, what is the war destruction, and what is the war crime. So in the name of the peace, in the name of the friendship, in the name of the solidarity of all European countries, I wish you all the best in the future, and thank you very much for this opportunity. One more time, this is some moral obligation of the leaders of Western Balkan than some political or how we can say it's in some another reason. Thank you one more time, and stay strong.
Thanks. Did you ever think that you would lead war against Russia and Putin? Question for you.
Ніхто не думав.
Nobody would think that all those years ago that there would be any war between Russia and Ukraine, because we were and still are neighbors. But whether I would give it a thought before my presidency, you asked me. You know, the point is that we have had this war for 8 years now. 8 years after Russia's violation of all the imaginable international laws, starting with the annexation of the Crimea and then occupation of the Ukrainian Donbass, and they started the full-fledged war after that. We cannot compare that with the amount of equipment with the full-fledged invasion, full-scale invasion. From the very beginning of the war, starting from 2014, we were ready for everything, actually. Everything, but quite frankly, quite honestly, nobody would think of torture in Kiev region and in the east, and torture, killing of children, devastation of the towns, of the whole communities in rural areas. So this atrocity, that kind of cruelty was unimaginable. You can imagine it in your mind, but when you see it with your own eyes, it's a different matter. We saw Nazism, terrorism, with our own eyes, what they did to our people, what they did to Ukraine. That was genocide. That is genocide. And now, this is not just about words, this is about seeing is believing. But in the Russian media, they openly admit that they do not recognize Ukraine as a country, as a jurisdiction. They recognize no borders. They don't think our territory belongs to us. They do not recognize our sovereignty. It's a matter of principle for them not to recognize us as a nation. Now they're speaking up. They're speaking their minds. They have cherished that design for many years. They downgrade Ukraine. They degrade Ukraine. This is degrading treatment for any kind of independent country. So this is just the beginning. If we fall, there will be something We do not want it to be continued. This is not a TV drama. It should not be continued. I cannot tell you when the war will be ended. I think when Ukraine is united with other countries of the world seriously, and this is true for everyone, any jurisdiction treating Russia as an enemy of any civilized values and their political leadership, their information policy that is called information. The Goebbels-like propaganda, Nazi-like propaganda. When we start fighting that together and Ukraine becomes strong, then Russia will be willing to talk not just through cannons and shots, but using the human voice, and that will speed up the process of conclusion for this war. The European Parliament announced your accession. For many years you have been doing reforms in your countries, and now you can see the fast track for Ukraine being an option. So what do you think about your chances to enter the European Union? When they will enter the European Union, you will enter, and will there be any competition with Ukraine? And how do you value the chances of Ukraine, estimate the chances of Ukraine to join?
This question will not happen, at least will not be directed to me, because we are here to support the need and the request of Ukraine to get the candidate status. And I don't want to give the people that may look to us, may watch us now, may listen to us, the impression that this is something worthless, because it is not. The candidate status is an important recognition of where you belong. And Ukraine belongs to the European community of values and of principles that we all share. And it's Ukraine's right to demand to be part of it. And I believe that it's Europe's duty to respond to this demand. But in the meantime, I have to be frank with you and with the audience. You may get the candidate status, and the day after, the sun will not rise earlier. And life will continue to be as difficult as it is, and hopefully will improve thanks to your strength and your resilience. Meaning, it's a long process. It's a very long process. I have lost count of how many years ago North Macedonia became candidate. A lot of years. We, Albania, became candidates in 2014. And here we are, and we are waiting to start accession talks. And they tell us that we deserve to start since some years, but there is something wrong now between Bulgaria and North Macedonia, and anyhow, I don't know when we will start the accession talks, because it doesn't depend from us. And it doesn't even depend from the European Union in this moment. If, even with in this European Council they'll not be able to deblock North Macedonia from Bulgaria's hands, will ask to be separated and will ask to go in our own. I don't know what will be the reaction. But to conclude with your question, we are here to simply tell not just our dear friends, the President Zelensky, but to tell to everyone publicly that we don't have a problem if EU grants the candidate status to Ukraine. So nobody should say that no, because if we give it to Ukraine, then these other guys that are waiting, they'll start be nervous. No, we will not be nervous. On the contrary, we'll be happy for European Union because it will do something very useful for itself also. For itself, not just for Ukraine, but for itself. So I don't know how much our voice can be heard in that regard, but what we can do is to say it. And let me add something that I couldn't yet speak with the President, and I'll tell him later. The Western Balkans have 5 countries in the United Nations. All of them have aligned with Ukraine, independently from different history, independently from different background, independently from different relations with Russia. Because it's totally different, the world, how we see the world vis-à-vis Russia, if you take, for example, Albania and Serbia, or Montenegro and Bosnia. But they all support it. But there is also a 6th country that Ukraine does not recognize yet, Kosovo, which, independently from that, is doing exactly the same thing everyone is doing, with the sanctions and with the full support. So what does it mean? It means that here we are in a very, very defining line between who we are for what we stand for, not who is Ukraine and for what Ukraine stands, but also who we are and for what we stand for. So I strongly believe that it's the right thing to do. Ukraine is asking, very good. Ukraine should be granted the candidate status. And the people of Ukraine should know now, not next year or after 2 years, but now that in the European Union eyes, their future is in the European Union family. This is the only thing that the candidate status implies, nothing else. Nothing else. The rest, I told you, you will build it. Nobody will come to build it for you. Thank you.
Can I just add shortly? So Montenegro is the front runner of integration in the Western Balkan. We are in almost final stage of the process, but the key message here is that after 24 of February things are not the same, and if EU don't understand that, that's the problem. So why we asking here, why we supporting this same? It's in merit based. We need to have the integration. So if some country merit to be in EU, let's be in EU. But in the name of the principle, in the name of the solidarity, security of the Europe, they need to make own decision a little bit faster. If this happen year by year, I think that all of us in one moment will come to the big problem. It doesn't matter somebody is front runner or somebody is just starting the process. So everybody who wants to join the family, I think that need to have the possibility to show that it's ready for the reforms. Not to have this kind of situation that everything is depend by some incidental situation between some countries. And interest of some countries sometimes is much bigger than interest of maybe all another members of countries. I think that we are in the position now after 24 of February, totally different position, and it's final moment to understand that we don't need to leave to have the black holes in the Europe. No black holes in the Europe, because that will be problem. Today is for Ukraine, tomorrow can be for somebody else, for some another state. Day after tomorrow can be in Western Balkan. So idea is to try to move forward, to keep enlargement process alive, and to promote more solidarity and to make the European family bigger and bigger. This is important for EU to stay attractive like organization, which still have the countries which want to join. This is important for us who have ambition to be in EU as soon as possible. This is also important for the countries who in this moment have some big problems, but see the future also in common European family. This is the all story. If somebody don't recognize that, don't be surprised if something like Ukraine happen somewhere else.
Дякую. Останнє запитання, будь ласка.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry.
Last question.
My question is for Mr. Zelensky. So do you expect a follow-up specific moves after the joint statement you have announced from specifically Montenegro to make specific moves to help and boost what you have announced in the joint statement? And also, what kind of specific help do you expect from Montenegro? Thank you.
Thank you very much for this question. Today we have started our talks about the priorities which we where we can use a little help from our friends here. The Prime Minister is present here. A country at war has lots of problems, as you can imagine. Montenegro is not a big country, and we understand the limits of their financial capacity and the military equipment that they can or cannot provide, the humanitarian aid limitations. But nevertheless, it all depends on your will. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I can see and feel that will. The Albanian Prime Minister mentioned the restoration and reconstruction of specific communities or blocks of buildings. Even this is number one. Secondly, this is our heavily wounded. I am addressing all our partners without any exception, because we are losing hundreds of people, thousands of wounded, 300, 400, 500 wounded every day in the east of our country. This is a difficult situation. We have to address all the friends, and in that aspect we would like Montenegro to support us also, of course, specifically. And I think the dialogue that we have started is very important. This is about Ukraine learning how to communicate and how to have approximation in economic relations with the Balkan countries. We will find some powerful economic projects, but presently in the first part of our meeting, the economic projects were not prioritized because we discussed security, where NATO members can help us with. They discussed that at NATO meetings, and for the summit we raised some issues. Ukraine is invited to Madrid to the summit, and for us it is of the highest priority to provide for security. This is security of the whole European continent, mind you. Thank you very much. That concludes our press conference.